Okay, we're going to take a look at the Altech Lansing 2200 power amplifier here, and we'll just start try to explain each card in as much detail as I can here to let you know what's going on. This amplifier has 8 amplifier modules. Can be configured in almost any way. We have 4 balanced XLR line inputs, and we have 8 unbalanced inputs. So this amplifier was pretty much designed for bridge parallel kind of application with 4 inputs in mind, but can be used as individual 8 amplifiers. Can be run on 16 ohms as the cards are without modification if you run them in single application. Modifying the cards can allow you to add 8 ohm speakers per channel, per card, up to 8 ohm individual speakers, 16 ohm speakers without the modification as in factory stock. Going to be using my amplifier originally here, all paralleled outputs, not bridged but basically paralleled is their term for it here, and that will be giving me 600 watts into 2 ohms, or approximately 2 ohm load capability, without the modification, leaving the cards all stock. Not real sure what happens if they're modified, what the complete outcome is. There's no charts or anything that documents that I could find after the modification is performed on it. If you just parallel all the outputs, what your resistance is at that point. So let's take a look. Opening up the lid, we'll start here at first. This is your input card, and we have 4 on this particular card, which is the 22, try to get the camera to focus here, 2221 is the model on this card. We have 4 master attenuators. What we're doing, we're coming right from the jacks on the back panel to our card right here. If we pull the card here and take another close look at it here, this card here, there were 2 cards that I've seen as an option. One, a balanced card, which will do balanced or unbalanced, either one of the flavors. And they have a card that simply deleted these transformers, which gives you unbalanced, leaving your XLRs unusable. They're just hanging there. They're not actually usable unless you have these 4 600 to 600 ohm transformers. Now all the circuitry is on the basic card. Without these transformers, all you would need to do is insert the 600 to 600 ohm transformers. And if you need any detail on the pinouts of these transformers, send me a link and I can try to duplicate that as best as I can. That way you could add these transformers and get a balanced XLR input to your amplifier. Again, that's the only difference. The circuitry is all there, and so forth. There's no need to worry about that. You can easily make that card accept balanced input. The next card we're going to look at here, mine here has 2 of the old-fashioned potentiometer style attenuators on the front of it. And what this card does, this is the drive card that will be driving the amplifiers, and we will be taking the audio from our input card with our attenuators, channels 1 through 4. You get to choose a channel that you would like, and that signal will be sent to this card here. And there is 2 attenuators in this circuit. This attenuator on your master card, the reason they did this is this one master attenuator, say like channel 1 for instance, could be assigned to both of these channels on this card. So you have an additional attenuator per channel assigned that you could tweak. Say if you tweaked the master, it would affect both outputs on this card, but you can just affect one by adjusting its attenuator and leave channel 2 unaffected. So you could use either or attenuator on this particular model of a card. Bridged switch is right here. Bridged will raise the output level. You will be using the positive terminals of the 2 selected channels, and that will put it in a 70 volt application. You just mainly be using this if you wanted your output to achieve your 70 volt level. Otherwise, we want to leave this switch into normal mode if we're using a standard speaker without any 70 volt transformers or 70 volt system in line. We'll go over that in a moment on the output section. Here are assignment switches. This assigns the actual input channel that we're going to select. Like if we want to use channel 1 on our input card to drive this channel, this preamp, all other switches, we'll start with all of our switches off, into the off position, and let's say we want channel 1 of this drive card. We will turn on number 1. That will give us the audio from the master card pot number 1. That will feed that audio into channel 1. Now, on our assignment switches on channel 1, we're going to set those up. So we'll start with them all in the off position to get started with, and we will go ahead and we want to send this to card number 1. We'll be running this into 16 ohm load and applying audio to this card only. This is the only card we'll be using at this moment for this demonstration. So we will turn switch number 1 on. Okay, now that will allow the drive to be assigned, this drive channel to be assigned only to this card. So therefore we should be able to put this card in, and we should be able to operate this card. We could actually pull all of these other cards, slide them out. We're not using them right now, so we're just going to test this one card. And you can insert all of your cards into this one slot and get a test on this card, to test all your cards one by one if you'd like, because that's all we're driving. And I would make sure that all of your other switches are in the off position. That way this preamp on this side is not being driven, nothing being driven there. So again, we want our input, our audio input will be coming from master pot 1. on our input card, passing through this attenuator, moving on through the pre, then drive circuitry, and being issued to drive channel 1 audio card. So that will be the card in channel 1 slot will be driven. Okay, so now we will insert our card, connect our loads, and power up and apply audio. Okay, so I have my cards inserted. Once again, we are routing our audio, our balanced audio or unbalanced, your choice, into channel 1. We have selected input on our dip switch for channel 1, and we're driving channel 1 card. I've slid all of these others out where they're not making contact. For test purposes, we want to test channel 1 card. So we will look at our configurations here. I have two 8-ohm speakers. They are seriesed. The yellow jumper is going plus to minus. The red lead is coming from our positive terminal on this speaker, coming out on channel 1 of our amplifier, and is coming out on the positive high side. Our common channel 1 is going back through to the black lead, going back to our negative on speaker number 2. So what is this doing? This is giving us a 16-ohm load, two 8-ohm speakers in series, and we will have a balanced input on channel 1. This is through the XLR, and we have that connected to our audio source. And we will come around to the front. We will turn our master attenuator down so we won't get any surprises, and we will turn on the power. We notice our amplifier is ready. We will hear a click in just a few moments. That is their protection relay kicking in. So we have no DC, no errors, no fuses blown on that card. So hopefully here, if we will turn up our master and note that we have audio, and we can increase our attenuator here and actually max that volume out too, and there we are driving channel 1 into a 16-ohm load through our balanced input. No other volume control here is being used. All of these are at no use. We're setting on channel 1. So we'll turn our master back down, and we have successfully tested and set up channel 1 of this amplifier into a 16-ohm load, and that verifies that is operational. Now we will go on to our next step, and we'll go ahead and test out another audio card. We'll just pull, say, a card from over here at random. We know this is configured correctly. The card is functional. So another card in question to test. We'll just go ahead and pull it out of the mainframe. Make sure our power is off. You always want to have the power off when inserting or removing any of these modules. So we will remove this power amp. We know it is in good working order. For the part, it seems to be passing audio. So we will assume that is in good working order. All of these cards are, in fact, factory stock config. Did note, you can't mix some configured 8 and 16 ohm cards in the same mainframe. Did note that. And we'll insert this card here and be right back with you. I'm trying to hold the camera and insert the card at the same time. Okay, so we have card number 2 that we pulled from the number 8 position. We pulled it and slid it back into slot 1 so we could verify its operation. Since we know we have our pre-configured, we know all of that is up and running. So we'll just drop this other card in slot 1. We will go over and increase our master. And note that we have audio. And we do. We have good clean audio. So we will go down and turn our master down once again, and we will power off. And that verifies that now we have 2 functional cards. So now that we can take the 2 functional cards, we can do a 8 ohm configuration using 2 amplifiers, and we will be, in doing this, we will be using a bridge function on the card, and that will go over the bridge, what bridge is doing. So I will momentarily here insert our 2 good working cards side by side. That way, you know, we will set this card aside here because we know it is functional. We want to use 2 cards that we have verified that's functional for this test. So we know cards, both cards in slot 1 were okay. So now we'll insert our previous tested card into slot 2. So now we have 2 cards in our main frame occupying channels 1 and 2. So what we want to do here is we want to put this in an 8 ohm, and what we're going to be doing is not bridging at this point, but we are not going to run it on a 70 volt system, so we're going to be paralleling the outputs, which will give us a 8 ohm, so we can drive this on a single 8 ohm speaker at this point. But that requires 2 of the 16 ohm configured cards to achieve our 8 ohm paralleled output. Okay, looking at our configuration, we're going to, in the manual, we're going to achieve 2 output amplifiers. We're going to produce 150 watts into 8 ohms. And we're going to be doing this on a 35 volt or peak-to-peak signal be produced there. We're not doing the bridge mode, but we will be using 2 cards in parallel. Now, as we do this, we can take our speakers out of our connection that we have here. We're going to be connecting 1 speaker. So we will have 1 8 ohm speaker connected, and we will get our plus and minus on our speaker. On our speaker output terminals, we want to go, we want to pick up a plus to plus channels 1 and 2. So we will be paralleling channels 1 and 2, tying the positives together, the output positives, and we will take another jumper here and tie our output negatives together at this point, negative to negative, on channels 1 and 2. So basically we are just paralleling, we're putting a bridge jumper between our 2 positive terminals, channels 1 and channel 2, and likewise on our negative to negative, channel 1, channel 2. So we're just tying the outputs together. This will allow us to drive the 8 ohm speaker directly, and we will be configuring our preamp card. We're still going to have our audio source from channel 1, and we will pull our pre card at this point And where we were driving, we're still driving our audio from channel 1. We need to go to our drive section here, our output section, and we have to use the same preamp. So we're going to want to be driving both amplifiers with our channel 1 and channel 2. So we've got to select our output and send it to both cards, number 1 and card 2. Now, very important, this must come from the same preamplifier. We can't be driving channel 1 here and channel 2 here due to the fact that we would be putting it in bridge mode for that application. So right now we're just doing a parallel, and this parallel will allow us to drive both cards off the same driver, ensure the same level, and we will just be forcing them in parallel, which will give us a 8 ohm at 150 watts of total power, and we're not going in the bridge mode, so we'll be going in our 35 volt peak to peak output at max. And we will insert our drive card. Once we have our drive card seated back, we will power up our amplifier. Notice both lights are on, and we'll hear a protection relay click, and we can increase our output gain, and we have audio. And we are driving 8 ohms and paralleled the outputs, plus to plus, minus to minus, into a single 8 ohm speaker. And that's giving us a 8 ohm configuration. Okay, now that we have 8 ohm system set up here and operational, let's go for a single channel 4 ohm system. And this is half of our achievement here, which will be adding 4 more cards will give us a 2 ohm condition at 600 watts. So show you here how to configure for a 4 ohm load on this system, which at factory defaults 16 ohm cards, we will have to have 4 of these amplifiers in our chassis, all tested and functional cards. I like to check them individually, make sure each card is functioning, which we have already done. And we will need to go in here. We're still going to be using channel 1 as our master, and we're going to once again pull our drive card, and again we will be looking at only channel 1, and we are not using bridge. It is pulled out of that mode. This is for basically for bridging for a 70 volt application, which we're not using right now. We're still assigned to channel 1 is our attenuator input, and we currently, for our 8 ohm load, we have channels 1 and 2 turned on. So now we want to turn on 2 more cards that are in slots 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 are being derived out of this preamp. This preamp IC here is now driving channels 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is cards 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And we will insert again this card, making sure that switches 1, 2, 3, and 4 are activated. All of our other unused switches are in the off position once again. And we will insert our card once again into the chassis. Okay, and before we power up, we will need to achieve our jumpers here. So now that we're adding 2 more cards, we will want to parallel our outs again. So we were going to pick up 2 more modules, and I'm hoping I will have enough jumpers here for this at this point. So I will be tying the positives together here at this point. And it's much easier if you have the little bridging jumpers that's supposed to be supplied with this amplifier, which I do not have. At this point I'm just using jumpers here, so as long as we verify that all of our positive connections 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all now tied together. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and our negatives, and I will go ahead and wire those up and be right back with you here. Okay, now that I have gotten all my jumpers on, I had to put the camera down to parallel all of our positive, all 4 channel positive leads, and parallel all of our 4 channel negative leads. So channels 1, 2, 3, and 4, all negatives are tied. Channels 1, 2, 3, and 4, all positives are tied in parallel. And in parallel we have 2 8-ohm speakers in parallel, plus plus, minus minus, giving us a 4-ohm load. And once again we have our card figured to still drive off of our channel 1 audio, going through channel 1 attenuator, and all of our drive jumpers, our drive switches are set. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are turned on, coming from the same preamp, to drive all 4 in parallel output cards, giving us a total of our 4-ohm load at 300 watts at our 35 volt peak-to-peak range. And we will power up, and all of our power lights are lit on our cards. We will hear our relays click, and we will turn up our master, noticing that we have audio on our output. So knowing that, we can now set up for our 4-ohm load, and we can go on and just keep adding cards. If you had 5 cards, you could drive 3.2 ohm loads at 375 watts. Put 6 cards in, we can drive this into a 450 watts at 2.7 ohms, 7 cards, 2.3 ohms at 525 watts, and finally at our 600 watts at 2 ohms with all 8 cards populated and driving from the same drive. Now, in order to drive, which I'm doing, driving subwoofer with this amp in mono, is we will turn on all 8 switches, or output switches. All 8 of those are actually turned on. I'm pulling my audio source from channel 1, so channel 1 is the only switch that is turned on, and I'm using attenuator number 1 on this card. And again, these switches are in the off position, not used. These are in the off position, not used, and we are not in bridge 75 volt output mode. We're in the normal mode, because we're just paralleling, can't talk now, our outputs together. We're not bridging, we're doing a parallel of all of our 8 cards that will be in our mainframe at that point. The only difference that I see versus the card that you have are just the fact that you have, instead of the pot attenuators on your drive card, you have attenuators that are being used as dip switches. On these attenuation switches, all 4 of them, like channel 1 here for example, if you'll just be using channel 1 to do our test with, like we just set this one up, if you close the switches, you would depress the rocker to the left to add attenuation, and you will open the switch by depressing the rocker to the right, and that would remove attenuation. So basically that is the same effect on this drive card as turning this pot up or down. You're just setting the actual attenuator by dip switch method, which is a kind of a fancier way, I guess, of doing that. This card that you have is capable of driving 4 outputs, which this card is capable of driving 2, and it only has 2 separate channels, so we can create stereo left, right, whatever, which here we can actually drive 4 independent devices, you know, setups at one time. So you could have a say an 8 ohm configuration on one channel, maybe a 16 ohm configuration here. You might have a 4 ohm configuration for this output, or whatever combinations that you would want to assign. But in my case here, I'm just using channel 1, and if I'm driving a sub at 2 ohms into 600 watts, so ignore all the rest of the devices on board. Make sure you're out of the bridge mode. Pull this one out as well. We want to address channel 1 input attenuator. We want to turn switch number 1 on, and that's the same as on my card here, selecting which channel 1 your audio source will be coming from. Say any channel, that's saying this channel 1. This switch is turned on, it's routing channel 1 audio into this attenuator. Set your proper attenuation levels. I would recommend just turning this all the way up if you're just running it and running it from your master volume. Switches 1, 2, bank switches 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is your outputs, your quad outs. We would want to turn all of these 2, 3, and 4. These particular switch banks, make sure they're all off. And switch bank number 1. If you're wanting to drive all 8 cards into a 2 ohm load, I would go here and turn on all of these switches. That is saying that channel 1's drive will drive all 8 cards in parallel, giving you a 2 ohm 600 watt output total, with everything channels 1 through 8 all paralleled, all pluses to plus, all minuses to minus. Then go from there to your speaker load. If you wish to do test like I just did on cards, on each individual card, pull everything out, start with channel 1, insert 1 card at a time, put you a 16 ohm load on your output, turn all switches off, and start with turning on switch number 1 in this position here. Just turn on number 1 switch, and that will route your audio from here to through the driver to here, through card number 1. And in your case, you have a modified card, so you will want you're expecting an 8 ohm load on your card. In my case, mine is unmodified, so I am receiving a 16 ohm output, so I will have to have a 16 ohm load. If you're planning on using this amp at a 600 watt 2 ohm load, I would consider going back and putting it factory stock, that is in its per card 16 ohm position, you'll have to change your taps back on the mainframe as well to accommodate the 16 ohm, because in parallel mode I don't have any documentation as to what values you can actually load the cards while they're in that modded state. That is unknown. As far as noticing some external parts tacked on the back of a couple of your cards or so forth, these may have been earlier cards, and there is some bulletins out there that is from the factory that were some factory improvements to some of the output cards. Not real sure if that's what has been applied there, but if it looks factory or a factory mod, you know, probably that particular revision number of that card is probably had to have a mod. You might check all your other cards and see if they have the same revision code actually stamped on the modules themselves. That way you could verify what all has been done. Hope this a little bit helps. Kind of quickly thrown this together. If there's anything else that you could possibly think of, feel free to shoot me a message. Anything else you need clarified on, I will do my best to try to give you some help on this. As I know, this amplifier was quite a chore for me to get a grasp on until I read the manual thoroughly and got over all of its conditions thoroughly. Very nice power amp indeed. Like I say, need any further assistance, please let me know. Thanks.